All right, let's dive into this explainer. If you live in New York, you already know the vibe, that oppressive, inescapable, heavy mix of extreme heat and humidity that just takes over the city every summer. But today, we're going a bit deeper. We're going to look at the actual data, unpack why our infrastructure struggles so much, and, most importantly, figure out how we can actually survive it.
Just wrap your head around this number for a second. 111.2 degrees Fahrenheit. No, that is not a typo. That is the blistering feels-like temperature that subway riders recently had to endure while just standing on the Times Square platform. It is this completely suffocating reality of 89-degree heat combined with 81% humidity all trapped underground.
There's this quote from a local subway rider, Kenny Rodriguez, that just hits the nail on the head. He said, "It smells like soup. Not a good one. I mean, it's funny, but it's painfully accurate, right? It perfectly captures that visceral shared misery of New Yorkers battling the heat. But to fix this giant bowl of subway soup, we first have to understand the science behind it."
So why is the city so relentlessly hot? It all comes down to the urban heat island effect. Think of it like a giant thermal sponge. When you replace natural, breathing surfaces with miles of concrete, asphalt, and towering buildings, those materials soak up solar radiation all day long. And the kicker? They stubbornly re-radiate all that heat back out at night. The city's massive, dense environment literally creates its own microclimate that physically traps the heat in.
And when you actually map this out thermally, making the invisible visible, the results are honestly staggering. All those deep red and orange zones show exactly where the heat is dangerously concentrated. It's the reason why NYC summer nights average 7 degrees warmer than the greener suburbs right outside the city. And under certain weather conditions, it could be up to 20 degrees warmer. The city simply cannot breathe to cool itself down. Plus, this isn't a static problem, it's snowballing. Average annual temperatures have jumped 2.6 degrees since 1901. Historically, Central Park used to average about 18 days a year hitting 90 degrees. In 2024, that crept up to 21 days. But here's the wild part. Climate scientists project that by the 2050s, NYC could experience 54 or more 90-degree days a year. To put that into perspective, New York could soon have the same number of scorching days as Birmingham, Alabama.
Section 1. Inside the subway sauna. So, how does this massive climate issue play out for the average commuter? Well, data collected across the transit system reveals just how dangerous these platforms get. At Times Square, like we mentioned, it feels like over 111 degrees. Grand Central, nearly 100 degrees. These environments are completely blowing past the EPA's recommended indoor humidity levels of 30 to 50%. This goes way beyond just sweating through your work shirt. This is a severe public health hazard, especially for the elderly, pregnant individuals, and anyone dealing with respiratory issues.
Now, the really tragic irony here is what experts call maladaptation. You know how it feels comfortably chilly once you finally get inside the train car? Well, those air conditioning units are actively pumping all of their hot exhaust air directly onto the platforms. That exhaust then mixes with the friction from the train brakes and the body heat of millions of commuters. We are literally engineering the largest public sauna in the country.
You're probably wondering, why not just air condition the stations? Well, it comes with a pretty staggering price tag. The MTA estimates it would cost anywhere from $50 to $250 million to implement real cooling solutions and proper ventilation in these heat-prone stations. But other cities, like London, are already successfully trialing cooling panels. So we know the technology exists. It proves the issue isn't a lack of innovation, it's just a matter of political and financial willpower.
Section 2. Infrastructure under stress. Because extreme heat doesn't just melt our patients underground, it threatens the very power grid that keeps the entire city running. Let's rewind a bit to the devastating 2006 Queens blackout. It's a perfect example of how a heat wave cascades into an absolute disaster. On July 16th, a severe heat wave kicks off. Literally, the very next day, the soaring demand for air conditioning causes Con Edison equipment in Long Island City to fail. And it wasn't until July 26th that the longest single power outage in NYC history finally ended.
When the heat drives every single person to crank their AC at the exact same time, the entire energy system buckles. And the human and financial toll of that overwhelmed grid is huge. 174,000 residents were stuck in the dark for 9 straight days. Local businesses lost $111 million just in missing revenue and spoiled food, pushing the total estimated cost of that one outage to $188 million, all triggered by heat.
Section 3. Your apartment's climate.
Let's zoom in from the massive city grid right into your living room, because the city's weather totally dictates the microclimate behind your closed doors too. Living in a New York apartment means riding a dramatic seasonal roller coaster. In the winter, you get the winter desert. Central heating completely strips the moisture from the air, dropping vapor pressure to a bone-dry 6.7 millibars. Hello, dry skin and scratchy throats. Then, flip to the summer sauna, where subtropical conditions push indoor humidity to a staggering 82%, turning your space into an oppressive mold-friendly environment.
Section 4, Beating the NYC Heat.
Okay, so what do we actually do about all this? Let's talk solutions, starting big with citywide policies, down to stuff you can do in your apartment right now. To fight that urban heat island effect we talked about, the city is actually taking physical action. Through the Cool Roofs program, volunteers are applying a bright white reflective coating to nearly 6 million square feet of roofs. It literally bounces solar radiation right back into the atmosphere. The city is also investing heavily in green roofs, which actively bring down both outdoor and indoor temperatures.
Then there's this brilliant concept of ecological infrastructure. NYC Green Streets has been planting bioswales in neighborhoods like Queens. Instead of miles of flat asphalt baking in the sun, these planted areas act as natural air conditioners. The vegetation provides much-needed shade and releases moisture, which can actually drop the local air temperature by several degrees. It's functional, and it looks a whole lot better than concrete.
But on a personal level, you don't need to go out and buy thousands of dollars in fancy equipment. You can just use some really practical, budget-friendly habits. Step 1. Aim your window fans outward to push that hot, humid air out of your apartment. Step 2. Grab some houseplants. Peace lilies or Boston ferns basically act as natural living dehumidifiers. Step 3. Take cooler, shorter showers. You're not pumping extra steam into your bathroom. Step 4. Something as simple as keeping a lid on your pots while cooking makes a huge difference. And step 5, grab a cheap hygrometer to monitor your indoor air and try to keep it in that sweet spot of 30 to 50% humidity.
But let's be real, personal responsibility only gets us so far. Jonathan Ung from the Columbia Climate School posed a really crucial question. When will New Yorkers stop suffering from the hellish conditions of the city's most vital public infrastructure? Ultimately, yeah, we can put peace lilies in our apartments and paint our roofs white, but we absolutely have to demand the proactive implementation of real cooling technology from our leaders. The funding is possible, we just need the action. So what is the big takeaway from this explainer? It's that extreme heat isn't just some annoying summer inconvenience you have to sweat through. It is a profound, systemic public health hazard. As temperatures continue to smash records year after year, we really have to ask ourselves, can our aging urban infrastructure actually outpace this invisible threat? Will our city adapt fast enough, or are we literally destined to just keep sweating it out? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helps you stay cool out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.